Hello, I'm KAWC's Michelle Faust. KAWC Colorado River Public Media is pleased to partner with KYMA News 11 to bring you this Yuma City Elections Candidate Forum. In today's broadcast, you'll hear from the 6 general election candidates for the Yuma City Council. They'll be taking questions from KAWC's Kim Johnson and KYMA's John Archuleta. This event is an example of the kind of civic engagement we're dedicated to fostering in our community and the kind of news and reporting we strive to produce at Southwestern Arizona's only public radio station.
All right, well, first off, we just want to thank you all for joining us and KAWC Colorado River Public Media for the Yuma City Elections Candidate Forum. I'm News 11's John Archuleta, and today we'll be hearing from the 6 general candidates for Yuma City Council. They will be introducing themselves in just a moment, but first we want to tell you about today's format, and for that, I'm going to be joined by my co-moderator, KAWC host, Kim Johnson.
Thank you very much, John. Tonight, the candidates will be answering questions from John and myself on a variety of topics that impact our city. The candidates have 45 seconds for their answer, and I'd ask that the candidates stick to that limit. We're trying to get through as many different questions as we can, and then that's for the benefit of all of our city voters. John will have the first question, but we'll begin with brief opening statements from each of the candidates. And as you can see on television, the candidates are sitting in alphabetical order. So we start things off tonight with William Kraft.
Ready?
Ready.
All right, hi there. My name is Bill Kraft, and I bring leadership and financial experience to the position of City Council. I work at Wells Fargo in the business banking group. My position allows me to work daily with our local business owners on their finances. I've studied the city budget and I understand it. I also bring 20 years of leadership as a retired Marine. In the last 30 years that I've lived in Yuma, I've embedded myself in the community as I served on a lot of the boards. I'm currently the president of the Yuma Sunrise Rotary. I'm the chairman of the Housing Authority, just to name a few. I am on a couple of different finance committees, and I understand Yuma, and I want to be your choice for the next city council position.
All right, thank you very much, William. Next, we'll have Mr. Paul Johnson.
Hi, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight, and for those that are watching us on TV. I came to Yuma 37 years ago with the Border Patrol and learned this was a great place to live and raise my family. I put in 25 years with the Border Patrol, and I have the experience of working cooperatively with the County Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Planning and Zoning Commission for 9.5 years. We developed a joint land use plan that was adopted by the city and the county to protect MCAS. I've also got experience on GYEDC, dealing with corporations to get them to locate here. We have added 400 new jobs this year, probably another 200 by the end of the year.
And our next candidate, Gary Wright.
Yes, I'm Gary Wright, running for City Council. I was born and raised right here in Yuma. Attended school here from first grade through high school, and actually got an AA in business degree right here from AWC. I was formerly the owner of Davidson Marine Supply, which is a boat dealership right here in Yuma, and I have 30 years of business experience, small business right here in the community. And I'd like to bring that 30 years of business experience plus some common sense to the City Council.
All right, and next we have Jacob Miller.
Good evening, Yuma. My name is Jacob Miller. I'm running for City Council, and I was born in Tucson. I actually raised here since I was 5 years old. So for the last 26 years, I've been here in Yuma. I went to McGraw Elementary, went to Gila Vista Junior High, and then graduated from Kofa High. For the last 6 years, I've been in business for Mac Electric, and right now the current position that I'm in is the business manager. I am in charge of the finances and the budget for the company, which is just roughly around between $12 to $18 million. And what I want to bring to the city is I want to bring new, fresh ideas, and I believe that I'm the candidate that could do that. I could work together with all the other council members, and then with the new mayor-elect as well. Thank you.
Next is Daniel Sanchez.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and really putting their time, their reputation, and the ideas on the line. It's not easy to do that. You know, I believe that innovation and efficiency can be brought to the government here when we have a a mix of differing ideas, cultures, and generations on the council. I believe I can bridge that gap between the young voters who aren't getting involved and who want to get involved. You know, I bring a much fresher perspective. I haven't been in Yuma as long as everyone else, but I've been here since 2006, and I've gotten involved in quite several organizations. I believe that, you know, that if we're gonna change things in the city, then we need to bring a fresh perspective. I believe I can bring that perspective, but still show our more experienced voters that they can depend on me and I'm reliable. Thank you.
And lastly, we'll hear from Gary Wright.
Hi, I'm Gary Wright, a candidate for City Council. Why am I a candidate for City Council? You know why? Because I believe in Yuma. I really believe in Yuma. I was a resident for 37 years. I was a former board member of Yuma Elementary School District Number 1. I was a classroom teacher for 30 years. I provided affordable housing for drug rehab and adult disability programs. I believe in Yuma. I believe we have all the assets, all the economic assets for this city to become the most prosperous city in the state. One of the things we don't have the leadership. And that leadership can't take us there. The people of Yuma come first, no political gridlock, and I ask all of you tonight for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Now, the first question will go to Mr. Kraft. It's from a viewer that we have from KYMA. Her name is Jody Hubner, and she's asking, how are you going to create more jobs? She says her son has been applying every year for a year and has gotten nothing.
Well, the city council actually doesn't create jobs, but we can be conducive to the local businesses and the businesses that want to come in. We can, each business has their own special needs, their own special requirements. We can work with that. Some of the things that, as an example, the permitting process. Maybe we can find a different way to find that, get someone so they can expand, so they can hire on new people, and then bring all the newer businesses into the town.
All right, and next, Mr. Paul Johnson.
Economic development is a very complex subject, and it takes everybody working on it. I've been on the GYDC board. I've met with representatives from corporations that were looking at coming to Yuma. We have to work together to improve the environment for each particular company for what they particularly need. We need to work together with the county, the airport authority, GYDC, YPIC, AWC, and it is a complex subject, and I can't tell you that I have a magic bullet to fix that, but I've got the experience of bringing jobs to Yuma, and we've brought 400 this year so far, and probably will bring another 200 before the year's over.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next, Gary Wright.
No. Gary Knight.
Gary Knight, excuse me. Sorry about that. Gary Knight, yes.
Well, government doesn't create jobs, the city council doesn't create jobs, but business creates jobs. Business is the economic driver, so consequently, the best thing the city can do is to create the economic environment, reduce some of the fees, some of the startup fees, and create an environment where businesses can come in and not be thousands of dollars in debt right from the start. Once we can create the kind of environment that will allow those businesses to come in, the jobs will come. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Knight, thank you very much. And next we have Mr. Jacob Miller.
Yes. Again, government is not the creator of jobs whatsoever, and so what the government has to do and what City Council can do is work with the entities, as in GYDC and others like that work to bring business here to Yuma, because business is what's going to bring and create those jobs that is going to allow your son to have a job. And so what we have to do is work together as a team on City Council. We have to work together with the mayor. We have to work together with the city administrator and then take a case-by-case basis on any business that's looking into coming here to Yuma, any industry that's coming to Yuma, because that's what we need. We need industry here that's going to create hundreds and hundreds of jobs at one time.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Next is Danielle Sanchez.
Can I have just quick clarification? Who was it that asked the question again?
Yes, it was a viewer we had by the name of Jody Hubner.
Hubner. Well, I'd like to answer her in a slightly different perspective. You know, at any given time, we have several hundred jobs that go that are not filled. I will reiterate, government doesn't create jobs, but I think one of the things that we're kind of missing in our generations is realizing that it's a different job market. And we need to change the way that we see. I could tell you right now, Convey Health Solutions has more than 100 job openings. Miss Hebner, if you'd like help with your son, you can come and see me. I'm a career trainer. I specialize in helping people find jobs. I do it on Facebook as a Yuma job guy. And I've been doing it for several years now. I can help your son find a job, but we're going to have to change the way we look at the job market. It is a different job market. We have to change with it because the economy has changed. If we approach it the same way, we're going to get the same results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And now, Gary Wright.
You know, that's a great question. How do we generate job growth? We have to define the problem. We have to identify the problem. And then when you get to that point, you search for the solutions. And searching for solutions is collaboration with all of us. We all search for solutions. But we have to look at the economic burdens of this community. We're the highest bonded, we're bonded to the max, highest in the state. Taxes are killing this community. 2% hospitality tax, property tax, sales tax, public safety tax, tax. We can do better. And I feel that if we look at the solutions and identify the solutions, we can solve this problem. Thank you.
The next question goes to Paul Johnson, and it's a simple one of your philosophy, and of course it'll go to the rest of the candidates. Do you believe that city government should be run like a business? Why or why not?
It needs to be run in a business-like fashion where we are accountable for every penny that we spend of the taxpayers' money and we don't spend anything unnecessarily. The city is in a good financial position. We had to take drastic measures because of the Great Recession. We reduced employees by about 15%. Our revenue went down by over 30%. Yet we were able to come out of that with an organization that's effective, and we have been able to reduce property taxes over the last 2 years while our credit rating went up by the Wall Street bond firms that rate the cities for their credit rating.
Next, Gary Knight.
Yes. What was the question again?
Well, the question is your own philosophy.
My own philosophy?
Do you believe in business, running a city like a business? Why or why not?
Government is city government is like a business. It's a huge business, but there's one big difference between business and city government. If you've got a business, you try to grow it. You don't try to grow the city government. The main thing, you want to try to get your tax base, increase your tax base. That will increase your property taxes and your sales taxes, which is where the city gets most of its revenue. But you do that not by raising taxes, but by increasing your tax base, getting more businesses in, getting more people employed.
Next, we hear from candidate Jacob Miller.
Well, the city and businesses are pretty similar, but the difference is that a business works for profit. The government should not work for profit, should not work to increase it in any way, shape, or form. And so what we have to do is as a city government, is be fiscally responsible. With the taxes that we receive, we have to spend the money wisely. We can't spend to create more government. We have to use the taxpayer money that's coming in to create more business that's going to create more jobs.
Daniel Sanchez.
I'd say no. I'd like to offer a different perspective. I think a government should run more like a nonprofit. See, one of the things that businesses will do is they'll take out loans to reinvest in their business, to try to grow it if they're not doing well. And that's not what government should do. But what nonprofits do is they have to make use of the funds they have. They can't reinvest in themselves. They can't take loans out because they need to manage the money that their investors or their donors give them. They don't really have the option of increasing taxes or increasing prices. They have to make do with what they have. So as a business, no. Some of the elements, okay, but I think it needs to be a lot closer to a nonprofit to run themselves because they're a lot closer in structure to a public institution versus for-profit organizations.
Next, we hear from Gary Wright.
You know, whether business is like government or government is like business, one of the things that all of us will agree on, and that is government's got to stay away and promote private business. no regulations, very little regulations, promote business prosperity. Government is the support system to private business and manufacturing and whatever comes in this community. Business gives us the direction and where they want to go, but you have to support the businesses. Government will provide the pathway. And I want to say that again, government's the pathway. Business will walk down that pathway as long as government stays out of the way and we promote business and do what best we can. Thank you.
And our final answer on this question from William Kraft.
At the basics, yes. It comes down to, well, on the city level, we can't print money as they do at a national level. However, we have revenue and expenses. We have to live within those guidelines. I mean, this is something that our budgets at home, our budgets at work, whatever it is, we can't spend more than we make. So we have to be able to spend wisely. And when we do that, we can start making some changes. The problem that we may get into right now is if we don't start saving and putting a little bit of growth for the future, then as we drive down our roads in 5 years from now, they're going to be almost undrivable. We're going to have to be able to do some stuff now, spend wisely, spend in the right areas, but it's a matter of revenue and expenses.
Okay, and the next question goes to Gary Wright. It's, does the city's system of development and other fees hinder growth and development, or is it fine as is?
Is it what now?
It's, I'll repeat the question. Does the city's system of development and other fees hinder growth and development, or is it fine as is?
No, actually, it's not fine like it is. What we're doing is not working. We certainly need to, the fees and development fees in particular, we need to reduce those so we can attract the new businesses in and cause the businesses to grow. We've got fees if a business just wants to expand. We've got development fees, we've got permit fees that are actually hindering these businesses from expanding and adding more employees and growing. And so the city needs to reduce those fees. They're definitely need to be changed.
Now, Jacob Miller.
We have to really take a look at the different fees that we charge any business, any startup business or anything like that. I had heard of a business owner in town that tried to, he was going to demolish his building and build a new building, but it was going to cost him almost as much in fees as it was to build the building. And so what we have to do is we have to look, and really it's going to be a case-by-case basis to see what we as the city needs to do to be able to help these businesses to come in, which is going to, again, create more jobs, which is the number one thing that are on taxpayers, that are on the citizens' minds today is jobs, 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 jobs. Well, to create those jobs, we need more business. To attract more business, we need to decrease those fees.
All right, and next we'll hear from Danielle Sanchez.
Try to answer this as succinctly as possible. Yes.
All right, next is Gary Wright.
Planning and zoning is basically the atmosphere for business to grow. And when I look at planning and zoning, I see a lot of things where businesses and that they want to come to this community. There's no fast track system for them to get the permits and to get their business or company up and going before they can start making a profit and survive. We need to restructure planning and zoning. We need to look at what we're doing. And then the other thing I don't understand in planning and zoning is why is planning and zoning getting into the installation business and trying to, I thought it's for public safety. We need to look at why is planning and zoning looking at getting into the insulation and how much insulation we should put in homes and windows. I don't understand that at all.
And next we'll hear from William Kraft.
I believe there's some opportunity for adjustments. As I mentioned in my opening, we have the ability to work with some of the different departments and committees that are through the city. One of the ones that the permit people are made of contractors, so we need to be able to work with them, and if they know what's best for them, me as a business person, I'm not going to tell a contractor how to do their job, but I think that there's ways to fast track the permits. I think that there's ways of getting along the process and get it done faster and make it more conducive for the businesses.
All right, and in closing, Mr. Paul Johnson.
We can always improve the city's processes, but we've already reduced impact fees by approximately 40%. if there is no free lunch. Things have to be paid for, and they're either going to be paid for by the people that are receiving the new services, or you're going to have to raise the rates on the people who are already paid for the facilities that are there. That's a question of shifting cost, and you cannot abolish or have a moratorium on impact fees. I have worked to reduce regulation by the city. For instance, the aesthetic overlay district was unfortunately greatly expanded, and I worked with the Chamber of Commerce to get that reduced.
The next question now goes to Jacob Miller. As a council member, yourself and the council as a whole, what can be done to safeguard the city of Yuma's water allocation? Especially, we keep hearing predictions of the fact that there's going to be a drought in the Colorado River Basin for almost the foreseeable future.
We as a city need to do anything and everything that we can that's possible to keep our water here. Agriculture is one of the driving forces of our economy, and so that water is essential to the ag industry here in Yuma. And so the city of Yuma needs to talk to anybody who we can, to, go to the state level, do everything that we possibly can to keep those fees here. To keep the water here. And then also work together as a city council with the mayor to make sure that happens.
Next, we hear from Daniel Sanchez.
Well, I do want to let people know we have a lot of laws protecting our water rights. So I know there was a grab before, but we have a lot of laws on the books that have been on the books for a long time to protect our water rights. So it's not something that we should panic about. But if we want to protect them for the future, we need to inform the new generation of people. There's an organization called Arizona Common Sense who's working to inform people. But if we don't inform the next generation of people, all it takes is one generation of non-informed people to change everything. So if we want to keep our rights for the future, and they're very strong now, all we have to do is keep informing the next generation of people, making sure organizations that are protecting our water rights have a voice, and their voice is heard to those generations who need to know.
Candidate Gary Wright.
Water rights is the heart and soul of this community. We have to protect that. And what I mean by protecting it, no encroachment on farmland. Be careful when you encroach on farmland. Help farmers have an easy access to their farmlands because they are in the business of production and getting that product to market. Protect our agricultural land from new roads and reduce production and which would eliminate access to water. Protect the health of the land around the land that's producing it. You got to watch the health of the land that's producing our agriculture. Protect that. And stop state laws that are going to encroach on our water usage. And that's the most important thing. That's the heart and soul of this community.
Next we hear from William Kraft.
Well, we have to work with groups. The aforementioned Common Sense, I'm actually helping or help involved with that, where there's groups that have traveled around to the different cities that have helped go in there to help protect our water rights here. We have to be able to talk to and know what the farmers want. We have to know what they are and how to help protect their needs. And then we have to be able to see what we can do to get the legislation to help along that lines.
Paul Johnson.
I've been working with the agricultural industry to protect their water rights for over 20 years. The bottom line on this is no water, no city, no economy. We have to stick together. I and other members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Council work together with the Yuma County Water Users Association to develop the first ever conversion program to convert water so that it would serve this community and not go outside of Yuma County. The fact is Phoenix and Tucson want our water, and if we don't stick together and work with all the ag industry and the farmers and the irrigation districts to protect that water, it will dry up and go to Phoenix.
And we get the final word on this question from Gary Knight.
Well, the City Council needs to work hand in hand with the County Board of Supervisors. We're not going to get a whole lot of help from the state because they want the water. But the county, we need to work with the supervisors and do everything we can to make sure our water rights are protected. We do have some very good laws, some real old laws on the books that are protecting that water, and Daniel is right. We need to educate the younger generation and the kids coming up that are inheriting the farms so that they keep the farms. And the city might also try a little conservation in their landscaping requirements.
Okay, we're going to start the next question with Daniel Sanchez. Now, Daniel, do you believe the current operation of city government is transparent? And if not, what could be done to make it more transparent?
I think it has a level of transparency. One of the things I'd like to see to make it more transparent is communicating with people via their methods of communication. You know, my definition of transparency is availability. One of the things I saw that I would really like to see our Welton neighbors in San Luis, they have this transparency government budget. You can access the budget online. It's not a PDF that you have to spend hours and hours reading through. You can go section by section, seeing where money's being spent, how it's being spent. You know, that's the access to information. So we have a level of transparency, but to make it more transparent, we have to communicate via today's communication methods. Government needs to stay up to date with what's happening. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind, just like a lot of generation of people have gotten left behind because of technology changes.
All right, next, Gary Wright.
You know, transparency is communication. Communication is so important. The communication and touching the people out in the community and letting them know that they are represented. They're represented because of the most important commodity of this community, our citizens. And transparency is communicating with them. And you can look at the call to the public. Never take the call to the public and place it at the end. That's killing transparency. That's killing communication. What we need to do is look at our practices, get rid of the old, and let's bring in some new ideas that promote transparency for our community.
And next, we'll hear from William Kraft.
I believe that they're certainly trying, but I think that we can probably make more of an effort. And I believe that we can be a little bit more available. Whether the call to public's at the beginning or the end, we need to be able to talk. You're our constituents. We need to be able to listen. And then with that, we need to educate. And part of education comes growth and a sense of belonging. And I think that by letting you know what we're doing, then we'll start getting that warm, fuzzy feeling, to use a Marine Corps term, back.
All right, next is Paul Johnson.
City government and any government must have completely open books that are available to any citizen that wants to look at them. And it's also critically important that elected officials be available to their constituents, any resident, so that they can ask questions, get answers. My phone is in the phone book. I have contact by email. I probably have the best record of anybody on city council responding to inquiries, and there's people that are sitting in this room right now that can verify that I get back to them promptly on any questions that they have.
Okay, next, Gary Knight.
Transparency is communication. It's having an open line between the people and your governing officials, your city council in this case. I attended the city council meeting where they moved the call to the public to the end. I got up and suggested a compromise that they have a call to the public at the beginning and the end. I'm going to advocate that. If elected, we should have the call to the public at the beginning and the end. As a retiree, this will be a full-time job, and I will be available to all of you by phone, email, and look forward to talking to you.
And last word on this question, Jacob Miller.
Transparency is really being available, and the call to the public, I like the call to the public. I think that there should be more, but what I believe is we need an opportunity for the citizens of Yuma to interact with the councilman, to talk back, to have a discussion. And so that means us as city councilmen being available all the time. That our cell phones, you can call me on my cell phone, you can reach me on email, but I will be available to respond to any needs and to any concerns that the citizens might have. That's one of the things that I really wanted to run on was transparency in government, because it's necessary that the people believe that they have a government that will listen to and respond to their needs.
This question is for Gary Wright, and it's kind of a multi-part question. Do you believe that Yuma citizens really do care enough about city government to closely follow what the council is doing? And if not, what do you think should be done to raise citizen awareness and concerns? And with all of this, are you concerned that we'll have a low voter turnout in the general election?
First thing, we can have citizens more involved in government, but first thing you have to do is you have to get that message out there to all the citizens in this community that the people of Yuma come first. I'm going to say that again. The people of Yuma come first. They're the most important thing. It's not political upheaval. It's not investigations. It's not any of those things. They come first. Then the second thing, and answer that two-part question, is once you achieve that, then the focus is continuous transparency, working with the public, letting them know that you represent, the people on city council represent the people of this community. And that's so important, and that is success for any government or city operation.
And I'll repeat the question since it's a little involved. Do you think that the citizens of Yuma really do care about city government? Do they follow it? And if not, what can be done to raise citizen awareness? And are we going to have a low voter turnout? The next answer from William Kraft.
You know, I do believe they do care. I think as I go around and talk to people, there might be a little bit of disappointment of just what we see in the papers, listen to on the TV, just in different aspects. But I do believe that they truly care. When I go out, I've been going around talking to people, knocking on doors. Everyone has a question. Everyone wants to be involved. So they really do care. And I think that as we bring back a sense of respect to the city, we can get the respect back and get them involved again.
Next, Paul Johnson.
Our citizens care about this community. They contact their elected officials on a regular basis. There isn't a day go by that I don't get some kind of inquiry on it. How we raise the voter turnout, I don't know. But the citizens of this community really care about this community, and they're not at all bashful about contacting their elected officials. And I am very glad to hear from them, because all wisdom does not come from elected officials or government. It comes from the people. They're the ones with the good ideas that we need to take up and work on. We need citizen input. The more, the better.
Next, we hear from Gary Knight.
I think my feeling is they're very interested in what's going on. In fact, I'm not a council member, I'm just a candidate, and I get contacts all the time, questions all the time, because they know for the last year I've been attending the council meetings and the work sessions. When I first became interested in this position, I do everything else. I research it, and that meant going to the meetings. And the people are asking me questions, and so I think they're really concerned. I don't know exactly how we're going to increase the voter turnout, but we're working on it.
Next, we hear from Jacob Miller.
You know, I believe that a lot of citizens do care about the government, but then also on another side, a lot of citizens, they don't think that they could do anything about it, so they're not going to get involved. Well, what we have to do as candidates and as councilmen is get out there and interact with every single person that we can. Talk to them, tell them the things that are going on in the city. Again, back to that transparency thing. Let everybody know and get everybody informed on what's going on, so that they can make an informed decision, so that they care about it, so that they feel like they have something at stake, you know, if you understand what I mean. And so what we have to do to be able to get the voter turnout is just the candidates getting out there and talking to people, getting our friends, getting our groups of people to get out there and talk and let everybody know what's going on.
And then the last word on this question from Daniel Sanchez.
You know, there's thousands of people who care, but it's not nearly enough. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be trying to get involved. It'd be, you know, approximately 60% of the population in Yuma is younger than 45, and if you look at the voter turnout, it's the voting block is much older than that. So obviously there's not enough people who are involved, and I think one of the reasons is because they don't see themselves in the council. That's why I'm trying to bridge that gap. That's why I'm running, because I want them to know that we care about them. If we want them to get involved, we have to care about them before they become citizens. Let's engage the high schools now, before they become voters, so that we show them they're not just a voter, they're a citizen, and we can help educate them now, so when they are old enough to vote, they will get involved. They want to get involved and they care, but we have to care about them first.
All right. Well, the next question goes back to William Kraft, and it is, during times of tight budgets and uncertain revenue, do you support city funding of outside agencies in the city budget, or as with animal control, do you support the city taking over certain responsibilities?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about privatization, and I believe there are some instances where we need to. But for the first part of your question about do I support other outside agencies, there are some agencies that are created specifically to bring in the businesses and for the economic growth. So that would be an obvious answer, I think. If we're going to bring in outside growth and we have people that go to work every day to do that, then we as a city need to support that.
All right. Next, Paul Johnson.
The city shouldn't be giving away taxpayers' money to the charities that the people that are elected officials think they should be giving it to. The city should only give money to outside agencies when that agency provides a service or something similar like that, like Amberley's Place or the Crossroads Mission, that we would have to pay for at a higher rate if we provided it ourselves. We need to take very good care of the citizens' taxes, and we do that by carefully supporting those agencies which actually provide a service to the city.
Gary Knight.
Yes, the outside agencies, as Paul said, I have to agree with that. The agencies that we do support, we have to make sure that the reason we're supporting those is because the city can't do it any cheaper or as cheap as it can be, as we can pay for it to have it done. It only makes sense, and what I would be looking at as a council member is what's going to save the city the most money and the taxpayer the most money. We're not going to be spending taxpayer money without due cause, and to do it wouldn't be right.
Jacob Miller.
What we do as a city is we need to help and support the companies and the different outside agencies that help Yuma, that bring, for instance, the Visitors Bureau. The Visitors Bureau is somebody who brings a lot of visitors down here to Yuma, which in 2012, the Visitors Bureau created over 6,000 jobs. And so agencies like this that create jobs, that help the economy, that bring new people here to Yuma, we need to support them. And as far as the city taking over anything, absolutely not. The city should never take over anything. The government should never take over anything or put themselves in competition with anybody else or any private entity that actually could do it the best, right? And so we need to leave the private things up to the people who are private and the experts themselves.
Daniel Sanchez.
Can you repeat the question? It's just been a while since
Sure.
I heard. I just want to make sure I have it correct.
Yeah, no, it was a lengthy one. During times of tight budgets and uncertain revenue, do you support city funding of outside agencies in the city budget? Or, as with animal control, do you support the city taking over certain responsibilities?
I think we need to do what the citizens do. During tight economic times, we need to make tough decisions. One of the questions I have is, there are literally dozens and dozens of nonprofits. Why are we only supporting a select few? We need to seriously consider that. And if we don't have money, as much as it might hurt, just like the citizens do, we have to make tough choices. If people want jobs, then we need to support those agencies that specialize in that, the Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Bureau. But it has to be something that the citizens, that it is explained to the citizens that that's their specialty, that we're spending it, because the government always spends money. We're doing it to try to bring jobs. That's how the city council can do it. But in tough economic times, just like people have to make tough choices, so should the government. It's not fair to support some and not support others.
And lastly, we'll hear from Gary Wright on this question.
Okay. That's a great question, because for the last 6 years, City Council has not discovered why there's 34.5% unemployment. We need to use outside agencies to dig out out of the problems and then come up with a plan or solutions to figure out how we can bring economic prosperity to this community. The biggest challenge for the new council is this, that we must market Yuma in the areas of jobs and job growth by bringing businesses here. If it's GYEDC, Chamber of Commerce, or any of these agencies, see if they are producing and they're accountable, and they are producing and helping the city budget and helping that revenue base. There's where the solution is, and that's what you got to concentrate on.
Next question, it goes to Paul Johnson, and it's kind of appropriate because it's about an action that the City Council has taken, so you're on record with regard to this, but if you can start at that point, saying what your vote was, and we'll go from there. Do you support the city's purchase of land north of the Yuma Palms in order to build a big sports complex for local use, but it also has the eye toward the possibility of bringing in some large regional tournaments and the teams from those tournaments to fill the hotels and things? Is that something you voted yes for?
Yes, I do. I voted for it, and it's like anything else the city does. You have to plan in advance. Oh, more than 15 years ago, we bought 20 acres of ground on the north side of 24th Street between Avenue B and C for a future park. We've just now started construction on it. If you don't buy the land when it's available, you're going to pay outrageous amounts of money for it. And that's not so much a sports complex as it is a park that has some sport facilities in it. And it can be used to bring large tournaments for softball, soccer, and other things here that will benefit our hospitality industry, fill our hotel rooms, and fill our restaurants.
Next is Gary Knight. Do you support the purchase of the land north of the Yuma Palms for a large sports complex?
Well, I asked the city administrator when this came up if I could see, or if they had a study that could show me exactly how long it was going to be before the city started to recoup its money, when it was going to start paying for itself, so to speak. And I was appalled to find out that no study had been done. There was nothing to indicate how long we were going to be before we started realizing any kind of an income from this, or exactly where it was going to come from. So I wouldn't have voted yes or no until I was able to look at a study like that.
Next, we hear from Jacob Miller.
Well, one of the things that I can't control is what happened in the past, and with what we have today, I was talking with a few people, and it's going to attract new visitors here to Yuma. It's going to attract a lot of new visitors here to Yuma, which is going to, again, increase, bring more revenue, people staying at our hotels, people eating at our restaurants, and something that I believe, especially being here in Yuma, where it's a huge military town. When people come here to Yuma, they really like Yuma. And so when they come here to Yuma, even if it's just a visit, they're going to realize how great Yuma is. And a lot of people come and then they stay. And so that's what I believe that the great thing and the great aspect of that is.
Daniel Sanchez.
You know, in one of the toughest economies really that we face in a long time, I don't think that was a good choice. You know, it's easy to say it will bring business. Here's my thing. Are we confident enough that the people who elected for it, if it doesn't happen, will resign? If you're not that confident, you shouldn't have voted for it, because it's a lot of money that was spent. And again, it's easy to say it will bring business, but we have a lot of parks already. Why do we need more? You know, there was a private organization of people in the foothills who created their own park because they wanted it. Private citizens can do those kind of things, and right now I just don't think it was the best time. Again, it's easy to say it will bring money, but if there's no study that's been done, if we haven't truly analyzed it, we really have nothing to back that up.
Next, we hear from Gary Wright.
You know, here we go again. Here we go again. Does government feel it's important to fund additional softball fields, or has the city seen a lot of people coming to the call of the public and saying that we have a problem, we want more softball fields here? But here we go again. It's the government's need. Is it the people's need? There's your problem, and there's the thing you need to focus on. The city failed to do a study on the existing softball fields, and what their capacity levels are. When you do a report and look at those things and then see what we can do, let's look at that. But government doesn't do things just for government. They look at the needs of the people. Thank you.
And finally, William Kraft.
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I'd have to dig into it a little bit more. But based on my own experience, I got here about 30 years ago. My first weekend, I was involved in a softball tournament. I believe it was at Kennedy. There's a softball tournament or a soccer tournament, something going on at every park, every weekend around here. And with an area that is surrounded by hotels, restaurants, bars, something that will bring people from out of town, the numbers will grow. And also, again, it was said as the first impression of Yuma, as we start getting people here, maybe they come back. Maybe they come back and visit, even if it's on the weekend. So, and again, having said the numbers, based on my experience, I think there's enough growth for something to support it.
Next question is for Gary Wright. It's concerning feral cat and animal control. Do you support the City of Yuma's takeover of animal control services in city limits? Why or why not?
I do. From everything I have been able to find out from the parties involved, the citizens, the city is actually doing a better job than Humane Society did. Humane Society really only wanted to do what it's doing, and that is kennel the animals once they're caught. It really wasn't interested, and we had citizens calling and complaining and that the animals weren't being picked up. The city is doing a much better job, and I think once it's up and running, which it kind of is now, it will be a good thing for the city. It's good for the citizens.
Jacob Miller?
You know, just something I mentioned before is I believe that the city government needs to stay out of as much as possible. And so the taxpayers are having to spend so much more money to have officers that go around and taking these animals. Well, also I wasn't involved in that discussion or in that vote, but what we need to do is see if it's beneficial and see if it's something that is going to continue to go on and something that's going to really support and help the people and the citizens of Yuma, that it's going to help the feral cat population, that it's going to help the Humane Society. We have to look into all those different aspects.
Right. Daniel Sanchez.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert on this topic, so I'm going to keep my answer very short. You know, if we're going to, we have to give the city some time to see how effective they are. You know, any new programs, you know, they really take at least 2 years to really figure out how effective they are. The first year, you're learning everything. You know, for the police here, it wasn't something that they were really expecting for a long time. So we have to give them time to learn how to do it. But the easiest way to solve this is the citizens of Yuma to go out and, you know, start getting involved in those initiatives. That's really all I can answer for now, because I don't know a lot about this particular issue.
Gary Wright.
You know, I can say one thing about government. Government's responsible for the health and safety of its citizens. That's the most important thing, the health and safety of its citizens, whether it's water, whether it's crime, animal control, whatever it may be. But we need to look at something, and I love animals. I just hate to see animals be abused or whatever. But we need to look at, is that outside agency more supportive and helps the city budget make the necessary changes in which to support the health and safety of this community? Or is it government? Those are talking points on city council, and city council has a hard decision to make there. Thank you.
William Kraft.
With the multitude of all the issues, this is actually one of the ones that I don't know enough about. And I grew up with an old saying I heard when I was a kid: I'd rather keep my mouth shut and be thought an idiot than open my mouth and remove all doubt. And I just don't know enough at this point to give an informed opinion, so I'm not going to. I apologize, but I just don't know enough to give an informed decision at this point.
All right. And last word on this question, Paul Johnson.
I agree with Mr. Knight. The feedback I've gotten on it is that it's much improved in service, but I have to make a distinction between catching the stray and sick animals and housing them. I think the Humane Society does a superb job on housing them. And I need to go back on something else. Everybody wants a plan and a study before we do something. We have those. We've been doing that for 20 years. It's called the general plan. We are 9 soccer fields short of what we should have. We're 8 softball fields short. Well, the planning was already done when we determined there was a need based on what the citizens said when we purchased that property on the north side of 8th Street.
The next question goes to Jacob Miller, and it's obviously for all candidates, but it's kind of your assessment of a particular service that the city's involved in at this time. So do you believe that the city is getting its money's worth for its share of the funding for the YCAT bus service?
That's a I guess you could say a hot issue. What we have to do is work in side by side with the Yuma County Airport. I mean the YCAT, the area transit. Sorry, and we have to figure out how we can better the service that it is providing, because I see buses all the time going by, and they have 1 or 2 people in it. So what do we need to do to better that? Now, some of the city is funding that, and so we have to work with them to make sure that they're doing the best that they could do, and whether that's decreasing the routes, making the routes more specific, that is going to be able to get more people, that we need to look into that.
Daniel Sanchez.
I would like to point out that every public transportation organization really in the United States, it doesn't make up for itself. Everyone is at a loss. And so what we need to look at is, yes, we're giving money, but that doesn't mean we have the authority to tell YCAT how to do everything. You know, we do have some say as investors in them, but everyone takes it at a loss. And so, you know, one of the questions you ask is it something that we want to provide as the community? And whether it's getting its share of the monies or not, that's really a hard question to answer, because we're not the only ones giving money to YCAT. So it's not really a very simple answer. We need to look at it much more in depth before we do that. But keep that in mind. Everyone operates at a loss.
Candidate Wright.
You know, I remember when YCAT was born and when it first came to us in terms of federal funds. And when this YCAT transportation system came, there was a lot of problems. Maintenance on those buses, drivers, routes, and so forth. And I think as long as City Council is tenacious looking at those routes and holding those routes accountable and making sure that the people of this community are first in riding those buses and making sure that the service is there, that's the most important thing. You go right back to the people again, the people first.
Next we hear from William Kraft.
Well, we know some of the routes are actually funded by Kokopah, by the Kushan. AWC helps with some of the funding. One of the things I would like to do, and granted I know that it's lost, but I truly believe that this town needs a public transportation system. But one of the things that I'd like to do is analyze the routes, the ridership during that time. We've all been driving down the street and see one of the large buses go by with one person on it. Maybe during that time, maybe that route can be done by a van instead of the bus. Just analyzing the roads.
Paul Johnson.
All public transit systems operate at a severe loss. They're lucky to recover more than 15 or 20% of their operating costs. Their capital costs have to be totally subsidized. And what people don't understand about YCAT is that receives a 50% subsidy from the federal government. When the community reaches a certain threshold, which is about 200,000 in the metropolitan area, that federal subsidy goes away. That means we're going to have to come up with that money, and any expansion of that system, we're going to not only have to come up with the money to expand it, we're going to have to come up with the 50% matched when the federal money goes away.
And Gary Knight.
I think YCAT needs to take a real hard look at their routes, and perhaps the ones that have the least ridership should be less frequent. I think the people that do ride them probably need the transportation, but Unfortunately, without enough ridership to make the route worthwhile, we just have to reduce the frequency of the route. YCAT needs to take a hard look at that. And I know it's not going to be profitable, and I think this sales tax that they're proposing is going to be great because the people of Yuma are going to get to vote. And I think that's where the decision should be.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. That will be our final question for this evening. We want to thank you for joining KYMA News 11 and KAWC for the Yuma City Elections Candidate Forum. We'd also like to thank Arizona Western College for serving as our host this evening, AWC Television Services and their technical production staff, and of course the candidates, you guys, for your participation. I'm KYMA News 11's John Archuleta, and on behalf of KAWC's Kim Johnson and myself, I just want to thank our viewers at home for watching.
Thank you for joining AWC TV for this special broadcast of the KAWC KYMA Yuma City Elections Candidate Forum. KAWC would like to thank the candidates for their participation in this forum. We'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of KYMA News Director Ernesto Romero and the Director of AWC Television Services, Sherry Needham. KAWC Colorado River Public Media is dedicated to bringing you the news that impacts your day-to-day life with shows like NPR's Morning Edition, weekday mornings 6 to 9, and All Things Considered, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6. And our locally produced news magazine, Arizona Edition, Wednesdays at 11. We also bring you NPR and BBC headline news on the hour on KAWC 88.9 FM and 1320 AM. For more information about the programming you hear on KAWC, visit our website at kawc.org. For all of us at KAWC, thank you. I'm Michelle Faust.